Okay. Armim ka Adonai ki dilitani. Adonai Elohai la'olam odeka amen. I will extol you, O Lord, for you have drawn me up. O Lord my God, I will give thanks to you forever. Amen. We have come to the next week in our sermon series called Belief in Books, where we look at our children's books to see what it is that we learn about faith. And before we start talking about Harold and the Purple Crayon and Exodus and all of that stuff, I want you to think back. Once upon a time, I don't know, 5-10 years ago, there was a television commercial for a communication systems company. I don't even remember the name of the company, but I remember the commercial. I think you might too. Flying a plane while building it. Basic premise is there's a whole group of people and they are literally flying a plane while building it. And the idea is, how can we do this amazing thing? We're building a plane while we're using it. Now, the idea being, it's a communication systems company. And so what are they doing? They're saying, we're not going to shut your whole communication systems down while we build your system. We're going to make sure you can use your system while we still create it. It's a fabulous commercial. Google it. It's on YouTube, I'm sure. Now, here's the thing. I think the concept of building an airplane while building it, while literally impossible, is still something that we try and do on a very regular basis, and it speaks to us. Sometimes life feels a little bit like flying an airplane while you're building it, right? We're going through life, we are doing the very best we can, and all of a sudden we are not allowed to leave our house, but we're supposed to do everything that we were doing the same way we were doing it before. Sound familiar? Feel like March? Right. We are constantly trying to create and recreate and do our best at living the world while creating new things, while saying we can't gather in the sanctuary for worship. We'll create a whole new worship experience, whether that's a pre-recorded sermon or a delightful Zoom worship service that just keeps getting better and better and better. Realistically, this is what COVID is like in our world. We are building the airplane. We are building a life while we're flying it. But so is Harold and the Purple Crayon, right? I mean, the beauty of Harold is that he is creating his airplane while he's flying. He's deciding, hey, I want to go for a walk. So here, let me create my road with my purple crayon. I feel like I should have brought a purple crayon with me today. But he's doing it in such a relaxed way that it doesn't seem in any way stressful. I mean, think about it. Harold is falling off of a cliff and he's like, oh, what should I do? Oh, I'll create a balloon. Here we go, balloon. I'm good. And it's like the simplicity of the crayon. The answer is obvious. The next step comes, obviously. Oh, I want to walk through a forest. I'll draw a tree because I really don't want to draw a whole bunch of trees. But nevertheless, Harold gets there in the end. He follows his purple crayon and his imagination and comes to a conclusion, a life that he wants, right? Because really all he wants by the end is to go to bed. And so what does he do? He creates his room and his bed and drops off to sleep. Now, let's compare that to Moses on the mountain. Moses is thoroughly stressed out by flying the airplane while building it. And who can blame him, right? God called him out of a burning bush and said, hey, Moses, you're going to lead my people to the promised land. And Moses is like, okay, sure, I'll run with that until things got rough. And for rough, we mean, of course, that Moses was leading a nation of people who were all less than excited about being led through the wilderness and were constantly asking to go back to slavery, because that's what the summary of the Old Testament is right there, friends, right? He is so stressed because he just doesn't know where he's going. So what does he do? He goes up the mountain and he says to God, I need a little bit of clarity here. Can you give me the plan? I want to know the plan. Are we wandering for 40 years? Are we going to wander for 29 years? And the rest of the time, you know exactly where we're going. All I want to know is that you've got a plan and that you could tell me exactly what it is, please. So God says, okay, I can't give you the whole plan because that would be like the insight of all God. But here's what I can do. I can show you my backside, because if I show you my backside, you won't die, which is really a good thing in this case, because you can't lead the people out of Egypt and die at the same time. Doesn't so much work. And that's the the way that our Old Testament text works. It's God and Moses having this conversation in the stressful of all times. Moses is saying, just give me a plan. And God's like, well, I can show you my backside and it'll be okay. To which Moses does calm down a little bit and say, it's okay. Now, I don't know if you relate more to Moses or Harold, but I think there's a good wisdom to be found in the midst of the combination. I myself am more of a Moses. I need a plan. Plans are really, really important. In fact, I really, really, really need a plan. Really, it's a big thing. My family, we start out the day, like breakfast at my house is literally like, okay, so here's the plan for the day, everybody. And here's where we're going to go. And here's when we're going to do it. And here's how it's going to be. And when we don't have a plan, it's very stressful for mommy. Plans are my jam. It's really the way it works. I don't bop around well with purple crayons. COVID has been very stressful because really we all need a purple crayon in COVID. Here's the thing. In times of stress, Harold uses his quick thinking and his purple crayon to get himself out of a jam, whether it's falling off of a cliff or trying to figure out how to get back to his bedroom. Harold has his crayon and trusts that his crayon will get him anywhere. Moses, in times of stress and wandering through the wilderness, goes to God and reaches out and says, God, I don't know what the plan is, and I'm sure that you have it. Just give it to me now, please. Please is really important. I think as people of faith, it's really tempting to rely on our purple crayon, to rely on the ability of ourselves and our own quick thinking to create the solutions that come out of the problem, to say, I've got this all under control and I'm going to create this amazing and wonderful thing. But I think what's important to remember is that God is our ultimate source and God has a plan. We just maybe don't get to see it. God is allowing us and helping us to build that airplane while we're flying it. The key is to tap into that wisdom, to know that God is there. To say, in the midst of a global pandemic where everything is shutting down left and right, or opening and then shutting down, or whatnot, to know that all will be well because God is with us. To know that the plan is there and we can't see it, because if we were to see all of God, we would die. It would be crazy overwhelming, but to know that just that next step, God is there. The world is a place that is changing constantly. It was like that in February, to be real. It's just a little bit more stressful now. It's a little bit more intense now. What I think we need to remember as we look at Harold and his purple crayon, as we look at Moses on the mountaintop, is to remember that God has got this under control. God has a plan and a purpose and a way for us to go forward. And so when we get stressed out, when we're overwhelmed because COVID has changed yet another part of our lives, when something else is different, when we don't like the way that politics are running, or we do like the way that politics are running, but we're still a little anxious about what's going on in the world, to take the time to go up the mountain to say, God, watch over me, to give me a little bit of that plan. Tell me what's happening, please. Show me your backside. Help me to make the decisions that you would have me make so that we can live out this life in a new way, so that we can be calm like Harold, but seeking God like Moses. So this day, let us seek out that guidance. Let us call out to God that God might show us how it is that we can continue to be church in this time, the ways that Zoom can get better, the ways we need to reach out beyond Zoom, the ways that we can be church differently, but yet still call on that same God. So let us call out to God. We're never going to get the whole picture, but we will get the next step in the plan. And it will be useful and helpful, and we can reach out and show that love to all the world. Amen.